Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be making this 6 pieces blouse, and if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that you will get notified anytime I upload a new video. Now let's jump right into the cutting and sewing of the 6 pieces top. These are the fabrics I'll be working with. I have about 3 yards of both Ankara prints. You can use any fabric of your choice, and I also have my zip and lining. I have my shoulder line, the chest line, the bust line, the underbust, the waistline, and the full length of the top, which is somewhere around the hip line. Shoulder to the chest line is 9 inches, shoulder to the bust line is 11 inches, shoulder to the underbust is 14 inches, shoulder to the waistline is 18 inches, and shoulder to the full length of the top is 26 inches. I'll go in with the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5. For mine it is 8 inches. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a ruler. Next, I'll go ahead and plot the neckline. I'll use a neck depth of 7 inches and a neck width of 3.5 inches. I am going with a V-neck this time. I want something different other than a round neck, so I'm using a V-neck for this top. And for the shoulder slant, I'll come down by 1.5 inches and I'll connect it into the neckline. Next, I'll go in with the bust measurements divided by 4. I'll mark it on the chest line. And from the chest line, I'll go up by 3 inches, and from the 3 inches mark, I'll come out by 0.75. I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. On the waistline, I'll go in with the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll add 1.5 inches allowance for that. And on the hip line, that is the full length of the top, I'll go in with the hip measurements divided by 4. I'll connect all those points together. I'll go in with the bust span measurements divided by 2. I'll mark it on the waistline, on the bust line, and also at the full length, and I'll connect with a straight line. I added 1.5 inches allowance for that on the waistline, so I'll go in by 0.75 on both sides of the dart leg on the waistline. I'll go in by 0.75 and I'll connect it to the bust line. At the full length, I'll come up by 1 inch, that is where the dart will stop, and I'll connect it like so to the waistline. I'll be using a princess dart for this top, and so from the shoulder I'll mark 4 inches, that is where I'll connect my princess line to the bust point. So I'll connect it like so to the bust point, and I'll come out by 1 inch to tighten the armhole. I'll come out by 1 inch and I'll connect it to the bust point. Because we have taken in 1 inch there, I'll go ahead now and replace that 1 inch and I'll remark my armhole. The next thing is to go ahead and tighten the underbust. My round underbust measurement is 28. 28 divided by 4 is 7. I'll go ahead and mark 7 inches, and from that point I marked, whatever I have left, I'll divide it on both sides of the dart leg. So now on the side facing the center front, I'll mark ½ inch, and on the other side, I'll go ahead and mark 1 inch, and I'll connect it straight to the full length of the top. I'll also connect with a curve to the bust point. The difference between the front and the back half length is 2 inches, and that is what I'll be taking in as the bust dart. So now on the bust line, I'll come down by 2 inches and I'll make a mark there, and I'll connect that line to the bust point. So that is the bust dart. That is all for the front pattern. I'll cut it out now. The last thing I decided to do on this pattern is to curve in the sides a little. So I came up by 1 inch and I will just curve it back into the hem. This is totally optional, you can decide to leave it like that, but I want a bit of curve on the side. I have my shoulder line, the chest line, the waist line, and the full length of the top. Shoulder to the chest line is 9 inches, shoulder to the waistline is 16 inches, and shoulder to the full length of the top is 24 inches. Remember that we took in 2 inch for bust that in front. That is why there's a difference between the length of the front and the length of the back. The shoulder to the waistline for the back is 16 inches, while the shoulder to the waistline for the front is 18 inches. I'll start by marking my 1.5 inches allowance for zip, and I'll mark it all the way down and connect with a straight line. So that the zipper doesn't bulge at the back, I'll go ahead now and tighten the center back. So on the waistline, I'll come in by 0.75 and I'll connect with a straight line to the hem and also to somewhere at the top. I'll just connect it like you see me doing. Now that we have altered the zip allowance, I have to remark it again. So now I'm marking the 1.5 inches allowance for zip from the new line. I'll go in now with the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus ½ inch. For mine it is 8 inches. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. For the back neckline, I'll be using a neck depth of 1 inch, and I'll still use the 3.5 inches we used for the front as the width, but for the depth it will be 1 inch for the back, and I'll just connect with my curve. I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant and I'll connect it back into the neckline. On the chest line, I'll mark the bust measurements divided by 4. From the shoulder slant, I'll divide what I have left by 2 and I'll make a mark there, and I'll go in by 0.5. I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. I'll go in with the waist measurements divided by 4 plus 1 inch allowance for that. And on the hip line, I'll mark the hip measurements divided by 4. I'll connect those points together now. The next thing is to go in with the bust span measurements divided by 2. I'll mark it on the waistline, the hem line, and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. I added 1 inch allowance for that, so I'll go in by ½ inch on both sides of the dart leg, and I'll connect it to the chest line. But remember that come down by 1 inch from the chest line before you connect it, and also at the hem line go up by 1 inch before you connect it. The same armhole princess dart we used for the front is what we are also going to use for the back. So like I marked 4 inches for the front, I also marked 4 inches from the shoulder line there, and I'm connecting it to the chest line like you see me doing. I'm coming out by 0.25 there, and I will just remark the armhole so that we don't have any shortage by the time we cut it out and transfer to fabric. At the hem now, just like I did with the front, I came up by 1 inch. I'll do the same thing to the back, just to give it a little bit of curve on the side. I'm transferring the patterns to fabric now, and this is where we'll be giving it the 6 pieces effect. So now I added ½ inch to the top at the shoulder parts there, and I'm just going to add in my ½ inch allowance also to the side. At the hemline, I'll add extra 4.5 inches to the hemline so that we can have that 6 pieces effect, and I will just connect it to the waistline. The 4.5 inches I added is not constant. You can decide to do 3.5 or even 4 or 5 depending on how full you want it to be. I also added my half-inch allowance to the down part of this top. I don't want to have any sharp point on this top, so I'm just going to curve it in with half-inch, just like you see me doing. This is my side front, and I'm just going to add all my allowances around the pattern, my half-inch to the top and the down part of this pattern, and also on both sides I will add my 4.5 inches at the hem. Just the same process I did with the front is what I'm also doing to this one, to this side piece. The same process I did to the center front pattern is what I am also doing to the side piece. But make sure to add your allowances to the side first. I am adding 1 inch to the side of this pattern, then I'll go ahead now and mark the 4.5 inches at the hem, and I'll connect it to the waistline. For this side piece, you can see that I added the 4.5 inches at the hem on both sides of the pattern. Please take note that my fabric is on fold. After cutting out, that means I'll be having 2 pieces of this. This is my back pattern, the center back, and my fabric is on fold. I am just going to be repeating the same process I did for the front pattern to this pattern also. I'll make sure I add my allowances to the top and bottom of the pattern, and also add my 4.5 inches allowance to the hem, and I'll cut it out. I have cut out my lining to the back pieces now, and I also went ahead to add interfacing to the main fabric. Interfacing is totally optional, but you can also add it to give it a little bit of effect. I only added interfacing to the main fabric. I did not add to the lining. I'll go ahead now and pin each of the pieces the way I'll be joining them, and I'll just pin the side pieces to the center back, and I'll go over to the sewing machine and stitch it. These are my front pieces, and like I said earlier, I added interfacing to the main fabric. I'm just going to go ahead now and join the side piece to the center front. Whatever process I do to the main fabric, I'll be doing the same thing to the lining. This is what we have after I was done joining the front pieces, and you can see the way it is looking. I have done the same thing to the lining piece also, and I'm just going to go ahead now and use the lining to turn the neckline, and I'm also going to use the lining to turn the down part also. For the back pieces, I've joined it and I've also joined the lining. So just like I said for the front, I'll go ahead now and use the lining to turn the back neckline and also the hem and the zip area. I'll go ahead and do that now, and I'll bring it back and show you. This is after I was done stitching, and I'm just going to turn it inside out and go over to this ironing table and iron it properly. You can add hemming gum to the hem of this top. You can add hemming gum to the neckline and the hem while ironing so that it stays nice and flat. This is the back piece. I am just going to turn it inside out and go over to the ironing table and iron it. I am done ironing here, and this is what we have. So the next thing for me to do now is to join the sides and the shoulder. I'll place the back on the front like so, and I'll go ahead and join the shoulders together. I'll join the shoulder of both the front and the back together. And for the side joining, I added 1 inch allowance to the sides, so I'll just go ahead and join with my 1 inch allowance. I am done joining the sides and the shoulder here, and I also went ahead to iron it. And the next thing I want to do now is to fix in the zip to the back. So I'll just go ahead now and fix the zip, and I'll bring it back. I am done fixing the zip here, and the last thing remaining on this top is to cut out the sleeves. I have my basic sleeve pattern here, and the length I have on this pattern is 10 inches. My fabric is folded into 4 so that by the time I am done cutting, I have my 2 sleeves. So now I'm just going to place my pattern on the fabric. Please take note of the way I placed my pattern. I placed it in a slant form so that I can have a little bit of space on the side. The measurement I have in between the fabric and the pattern is about 3 inches, and I'm just going to connect the hem with a straight line, and at the top there I'm going to extend the cap by 5 inches, and I'm just going to use my free hand to connect it back like so. I have cut out my lining piece here for the lining, and I'm just going to remove the pattern paper on the fabric. I'll place my lining on the fabric, and I'll go over to the sewing machine and close the down part of the sleeve. I'll go ahead and use the lining to turn the hem of the sleeve. After I was done, I went ahead to run a gather stitch at the top. So I'm just going to pull the top thread now and form a little bit of gathers on the sleeve. This is after I was done with the gathers, and I'm just going to bring up the top now. You can trim out any excess lining on the armhole, arrange it properly and trim out any excess lining. And I'm just going to measure what I have on the armhole and mark the same measurement on the sleeve. I'll make a mark there, and I'll just go ahead and mark my round sleeve measurements divided by 2, and I'll connect it like so. I'll go ahead to the sewing machine now and stitch. This is after I was done stitching, and the last thing is for me to just fix it into my sleeves. Thank you guys for watching. If you find this video helpful, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment. Please turn on your notification bell so that you will get notified anytime I upload a new video. Please follow me on Instagram at stitchedbyst, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.